Alright, I got this package just now from UPS, and this should be my new guitar. One end of it is a little looser. Looks like it's, there we go. And some padding in there. Alright. I think it's in one piece. Pretty sure it is. Alright. There's what came out of the box. I guess this was around the neck. Wonder how much this was to ship. It was probably $100 to ship. Alright. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and take these wrappers off. Okay, bubble wrap kind of enclosure to protect the guitar body. Doesn't look like anything's broken or chipped. Oh, actually, there's a crack on the pickguard, but that doesn't look like it could have happened in shipping. That just looks like it's something from, because it's bubbled up right here. Maybe in processing of the instrument when it was made. A little bit of age on it here. Yeah, that's really no big deal. It looks like this is kind of bubbled up a little bit right here. Okay, those are both tight. All right, now. Actually, I might go ahead and get a
back to the top of the order, Sal Freelick with one out, and he chops out one to first base. Rizzo takes it himself, 2 down here in the bottom of the 9th inning of the tie game.
Okay. Now the guy, I communicated with him when I bought this, and he said that he had always wanted to learn to play guitar but never got around to it. So you know, there are people who, you know, they want to do stuff like that with their life, and then, you know, life catches up to them and they really don't have time. Sometimes it's very hard to dedicate your time to things like that. So, and I need to look over all the frets and everything. But yeah, this crack here, this is not a, this is definitely not a shipping thing. This is something that was part of the instrument. You can see where the instrument is bubbled up right here, and it has cracked on the pickguard. So yeah, I don't know how to deal with that. It's an error in the construction. When they screwed this down, this was left to kind of come up a little bit. Anyway, it might be something that can be fixed. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take the packing off the neck.
Swing and a miss. That is a strong inning for Clay Holmes as he retires him in order. 3 baseball.
Okay, so looking at the guitar, there is a little sign of wear. As I pointed out, the crack on the plate here, that kind of affects it, because if you push on it, it looks like the pickup is allowed to raise and lower. So this is this is from age, and where it was constructed in the factory, there was the plate was put on and it allowed it to raise up. That's where when they measured for the screws, they kept these screws here holding the corner too high. So a way to fix this would probably be to take this screw off, glue this. I'd have to take the whole thing out, glue this part, and then make a new screw hole for the top corner of this part of the scratch plate. It would stretch the scratch plate out so it's up here. So it's not a problem here, it's actually this screw. And of course that would fix that, hopefully. It looks like it's possibly not been played much. I don't see a lot of fret wear. The frets could use a polish. There's a little tiny bit of chippage I'm seeing just here on the bottom edge here, and that's probably not anything to do with shipping. There is no damage from shipping. The things I see on it are from age, just age related. I think this guitar came out in the turn of the millennium, maybe 2001 or something like that. And this is it's a solid body, and it's kind of a I don't know, about the closest thing you could get to a stretch taffy Strat. So as we're looking at the neck, it looks good to me. There's nothing going on in the back. The headstock is good. There's a slight scratch right here that could be seen in the pictures. I'm gonna have to study the pictures and see if this little bulb uplifted part here is visible, because I'm not sure if this crack is visible in the pictures, but that's a pretty nasty little crack right there. Fixing that might actually kind of be a hassle, having to buy an entire new scratch plate to fix it, because that's one thing about these guitars, is the scratch plates were unique to the Danelectro instruments. So fixing this scratch plate will be probably one of the first things to do. Also, the back. There's actually supposed to be a white plate right here. And here's I don't know, kind of this is a cover plate that he put on here. And this is not, I don't think this is the actual cover. Yeah, just looking at it, this is definitely not the actual cover plate that goes to this. What goes to it is white, and it will fit right over this area, and it will screw in. And you can see here where there's kind of a larger hole. So I'm thinking the plate probably had a dip on one side to show from left to right, and then you screwed it in on this side, and then a screw would go in here, probably through the little part here to insert it. But that doesn't mean that it's not easy to fix. This is easy to fix. All I'm going to do is craft a new small back plate. So I'll craft a new plate for this and then screw it in. I'll probably put a small dowel, possibly the end of a chopstick, in there, and I'll mark it, I'll cut it, and then I'll flip it around, put it in there so that the flat part is at the top with some glue on it, and then that will adhese. And I'll probably do that with both sides. Re-drill 4 screws. I will make a plate that fits over this. That's just a nice small square plate. I've got all kinds of little things that could be used to make that. And then it will cover that. Now in the pictures, this had plastic, or it had tape, I mean, tape over this whole thing holding this part in. So also there's a missing screw on this back plate. It is not a flush black back plate, it's a raised back plate. We've got the Danelectro cover plate there, and you can see from the edges in the paint, I don't know if you can, let's see if I can get a glare here where what I'm talking about is visible right there. If you look at the glare right here, you can see little ridges, and that's because the type of wood that was used on this had kind of ridges on the edges of the wood. It might even be like a type of pressed wood, plywood kind of particle board thing. I'm not 100% sure on what type of wood it is. It did not come with a whammy bar. At least I didn't see it. I can dig through the box and see if there's a whammy bar floating around in the bottom of it. None of that. Everything I'm seeing here is either easy to fix, inconsequential, or purely cosmetic. So far it's looking pretty good. I want to fix the plate, rescrew a new hole here, fix the battery cover, polish the frets. It's missing a string, and it may have not had that string for several years. There's press wear on the string here. This could have been from age, or honestly, these could be the original strings that came on the instrument 23 years ago. It wouldn't surprise me a bit. When someone tells you in their comments they wanted to learn to play guitar but they never got around to it, that sometimes means that they purchased one instrument and then it just sat there. It maybe got played once or twice. In this case, a string broke, and you can see that from this bulb, this kind of bulbing kind of stretch of the plate here, that's possible. Now to fix this plate, of course, strings come off, plate comes off, and then I will super glue from the other side and then push this together. And then when I put the plate back on, I'll have to drill a new hole close to this one for this. I might fill this hole. And for that case, depending on the size of the screw, it might be 2 or 3 toothpicks or something to that effect. And then I'll go ahead and adhese those to level it out, just to cover the hole, so that when I screw a new hole for it, which looks to be like it's going to be like 2 millimeters away from this original point. So I can actually test that right now just by simply removing this screw and then pressing down. And see, by pressing down right here, this starts to level out. And this is a warped scratch plate. So the scratch, honestly, it might even be that a whole new scratch plate needs to be made or purchased for this to be done right, because that's really warped. But it feels like the body is flat underneath it. So I don't know. And then that's, like I said, probably a problem from when it was assembled. When it was assembled, they that when they measured these 2 points, this point was too close, but they pushed it on and screwed it in the factory, and then it allowed this to have pressure pushing up on it that created this gap. And I mean, there's no scratches on this scratch plate. So this is from time working its way onto the pearloid mother of toilet seat pickguard. So hopefully this won't affect it too much. I don't think it's going to. I considered that the scratch plate might need to be replaced just because I don't really like the pearloid look. So this is hopefully a non-issue. And also the shape of the scratch plate, because it's so weird, coming up with a new one, it's either going to have to be aftermarket or used from a guitar or created. And having to create a new one, well, of course it would be perfect, because you could make it however you want. Like, for instance, I might be able to make a more Strat looking style, but you have to incorporate the buttons, you have to make sure everything is lined up. So testing out the instrument is going to help to know better. You know, it could be the buttons aren't working right. A lot of things could be happening here. So, and this looks a little bent, the switch, and it's a lighter switch. It's got some positive feedback, but probably not the most expensive switch there. And this is your standard, and it looks like these little riser screws are very, very high. So it could be that a lot of setup work needs to go into this. When I look back here, yeah, it's a pretty thin, looks like a pretty thin looking back of the bridge there. So it's going to be a little bit of work, but either way, it looks pretty good. It's pretty much, it's a little more aged and a little more damaged than what I was led to believe by the pictures and stuff. He said there were no blemishes, and there actually are 2 chipped blemishes that are usually normal wear on the edge here, and this here, a crack in the pickguard where the pickguard is bowed up. This is kind of not good. That's going to be a nuisance, I think, to have to deal with, but I'll see what I can do about it. Okay, I've gotten the strings off of it, looked over it, and I'm going to go ahead and see about moving the scratch plate, if it's possible to remove it here. Just kind of, I went in and changed the battery. The battery is dead, and with the dead battery it really made some screeching noises, but I think I confirmed that all of the effects work. Of course, there's no telling what it actually is going to sound like instrumentally until I check the neck and the saddles and get fresh strings on it and all those other fun things here. Just hoping that the scratch plate is somehow repairable. Okay, so we got the, okay, yep, here we go, and whoa, if you want to see some kind of an irregular level of electronics going into an instrument here. Yeah, I want to kind of zoom in on this because, wow, that is there. This is the electronics board that is in this guitar. If you want to take a look at that, it's got 2 layers going on here, and this is essentially a guitar pedal worth of electronics. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there's less than what's on these in your standard multi-effects pedal, but this is a couple of effects pedals worth of electronics in the scratch plate now, and that's one thing that makes this scratch plate being warped a really annoying situation, because these are unique to this instrument only. As I said, to fix this I either have to try to repair it myself, and that's probably where I'm going to go with it. It just seems like the only real way to deal with it. Now, it doesn't look, you can still see the warping in it right here where my thumbs is on the side there as it sits. So the warping is permanent, and that's probably from 21 years or so of sitting around, but the crack in it may be relatively new. I don't think the crack happened, it didn't happen in shipping. There's no way that happened in shipping. The guitar was very well packed. As I look at the body and the screw holes, I'm kind of tempted to see if some kind of weird concoction can be come up with. I doubt it though, because this little edge here being as unique as it is, this has to be that way. And there's a lot of room here in the body. We have some spacing here for that part. So yeah, this is kind of a, you know, semi-complex. Oh, I've got the battery cover out now, and that comes out on the end. It's a complex design. So as I flip this around, with this out, there's actually enough room to flip it long ways. We can look inside, and it's actually not double like a lot of cutaways are. I'll move it closer here, and we'll move it back some. And I'll go ahead and back the zoom back out. And we can see here, yeah, there are layers in the wood. It might be plywood. Some dust. Nice and clean though. Very well done on the inside. No oh, well, actually this might be shielding. There's a red pad on the bottom here that I'm feeling. I think this might be shielding, or at least just something to protect the capacitors on this little PCB. So yeah, I'll move this through and just kind of reset. There we go. Alright, now that's back on, and like I said, fixing this little warped bubble piece here, and it's really just purely well, it's cosmetic as long as it doesn't affect the pickup height. So yeah, I think it's safe to say this is mostly cosmetic. But yeah, pushing it down like that. The crack is thin and even. With the underneath part of this cleaned, and possibly some glue applied, and some different screws that might be able to be stretched out and fixed. As I'm looking up here, I think that really is the problem, is that this was screwed too close and it caused this to get pressure, making it come up. And you know, that's really a no-no. That's bad processing, because this scratch plate is so unique to this instrument that you really need to be careful installing this. That was a problem. Also, on the end here, on the output jacks, there are two of them on this guitar, one for no effects, one for effects. The lettering is worn off of it. So this did get some use. It might have been a second owner or more instrument. Either way though, it's going to get the treatment. I'm going to go ahead and check the neck level. The nut looks good. It looks really good. I think it's a graphite nut, just by immediate look. I'm pretty sure it's a well-cut graphite nut. The tuners seem really, really high quality. It's got the Made in Korea label there on the back of the headstock. These were made in Korea, and then later in China, and then they switched right back to Korea, probably for obvious reasons. China is, well, they're kind of notoriously good at cost cutting, and it will get past your sensors maybe a couple times, but then you realize, wait a minute, we're not getting what we're paying for, or we're getting a substandard product. And so they go back to Korea. The Court factory is, on the other hand, well known for great instruments. So this was probably made in a Korean factory, possibly the Court factory, and so it's probably a good instrument. We could probably concede that it's a good instrument. There's some like corrosive looking nastiness on the springs, I've noticed. I've got extra springs. I might swap them out, or I might just oil, clean up, or otherwise check the springs that are in it. The grounding is good. The output jacks are tight. The strap buttons are good and tight. The little buffers on them are still good and clean. They're not broken. Like I said, there's some chipping on the outer edges of the, and it's only in the finish. and it's something, you know, to be expected when you have a, you know, 20 some year old guitar. I'm pretty sure these came out in 2001, maybe earlier, and they had a couple different versions. They had versions with one effect, which was their distortion, which was kind of sought after. They have pedals now that I guess have the same kind of sound, but this one has distortion, chorus, echo, stuff like that, all four of them. And I think a couple of the effects are actually controlled by knobs. Now right here we've got really high set screws, and that could mean that this neck is good. It could mean it's nice and low, but I know that this can get in the way of your hands. These are, you know, this is probably not the very best bridge ever, but someone has done their homework. The bridge's screws are raised enough for this to do some action. There wasn't a bar, but I have several bars, and I'm pretty sure it's safe to bet that any of the bars I have that are screw-ins will go ahead and work on this. So I'll probably just get an off-white handled screw-in bar to test out the springiness of this. I'll probably have to loosen the springs. I like these to have some action. I don't like them to be so tight that they're just jammed up on the body of the guitar. So yeah. And judging by the neck, it definitely needs some saturation. I can see some dry spots up along the top of the neck. This guitar probably sat for a long time and didn't get played. I can see one minor amount of corrosive, kind of pitty looking pit kind of look on the outside of this stainless of this plate, of the bridge plate, but the bridge plate looks bent, and it's thick and sturdy. The underside, of course, is kind of thicker at first, but then it gets really thin. So this is kind of a cheap bridge, and these were relatively cheap guitars, so you shouldn't really expect too much. But I do have a really nice bridge that's a 6-screw, and so I don't know, and it's got bent metal saddles. After I string this up, test the spring tension, get everything cleaned, and the frets have almost no visible wear. There are maybe a couple flat spots on the cowboy cord areas, so I'm going to obviously check the frets, give the guitar a big once over, and just you know, I'm going to get it up to par. Before I even test to play it, of course, I'm going to do all that. I don't want to waste my time restringing this, play it, oh, I've got flat spots on the low frets, and then have to take the strings off and go through all it. So just testing the neck for level, testing the frets for high and low spots, check over very closely for flat spots, and then be prepared to do at least a couple of level crown polish on these. I'm going to get this thing looking good, playing good. I don't know about this scratch guard though. This scratch plate is going to be fun. It's going to be a little gremlin to deal with here. All right. Okay, so I've looked up some information, and to fix this, I'm going to try out something I've never done before. It's a little crazy, but I think it'll work. It involves cooking the pickguard. So the pickguard is warped, and the way to fix a warped pickguard is to heat it up and then put it on something flat. So, and you know, it's just a big mess, So hopefully it'll work out. There's also a replacement I can get that's about $50. I obviously would much rather keep the original part and not have to spend $50 on something like that. And this crack here, I'm thinking after the pickguard is flattened, that would be a good time to glue this, because if I glue it first, then when it is heated and then put back into its flat shape, then I think this would probably break again. So be probably better to leave it. And it's getting up close to the area where the pickup is. So after it's flat, it'd probably be better to glue it then, should it need to be glued. So of course the hard part of this is you have to take everything out. Everything has to come out of the instrument, and I've got a little kind of old CD spool to use as a dish here. I also use these to catch bugs. Like if you've got a bug in your house, I don't kill animals if I can avoid it. So if there's a little bug in my house, I'll take the top of this and I'll put it over it, and then I'll get a piece of like thick printer paper or thick cardstock or something and slide it underneath it, pick it up, take it outside and let the animal go, or flip it upside down and put the thing back on it. You can show it to kids that way, things like that, and you don't have to kill a precious little creature. So there you go. Something you can use your CD spools for. These little cases that all the blank DVDs and blank CDs come in, and some of them are really big. And I use them for storage too, like because I've got discs from 20 plus years ago. Old America Online free disc, maybe something that says, you know, when America Online was first out, they'd send you these discs in the mail and it would say, try now and get a half hour for free. Could you imagine getting a half an hour of use of the internet for free today, and what that would do? And then gradually over time it became get 2 hours for free, get 8 hours for free, get 2 months for free. Eventually it was just like, you know, get so much for free. And I won't say I kept those, maybe one of them. I think maybe I kept one of them. Now this guy here, I hope will come out, because he's got a screw on there, but that's really tough. It doesn't want to come out. So, you know, I'll check that. The last thing in the world I want is to tear up that threading. So then we've got to get each of the pots free, which have, you know, never been off of this in the life of the instrument. I can already tell this instrument has never had any kind of work done to it. Probably the first time it's ever had the pickguard off in the life of the instrument is when I just took it off. And it needs a new battery cover, which I'm going to fabricate, which that's not going to be difficult at all. And and again, it needs the pickguard to be flattened. And so the pickguard's also pretty filthy on the underneath, and it has some double-sided sticky tape that was used to secure it at the factory, and that has all gotten nasty. So I'll probably go ahead and clean the bottom of it before I go ahead and cook it. So I'm going to clean it, and hopefully cooking it doesn't affect the shielding tape. I watched a video by Philip McKnight, and another one too from a different luthier that I watch occasionally. Try to get a couple of perspectives on the subject. And Phil said, hey, use a heat gun. If you don't have a heat gun, then maybe you can use a hair dryer, and if you don't have a hair dryer, you can use an oven. And he said go about 175, 200 degrees and about 2 minutes, and then you want to put it on something flat. And I've got all that set up downstairs, hopefully ready to go. And wow, that's kind of sticky. Yuck. I don't know why it's sticky. Oh, and of course it would be that this little panel here is somehow tied to a couple of these pots, so the panel's not going to want to come off. And that pot has had grease leak through. I mean, the washer has had grease leak through, so it doesn't want to come off. And there we go. That's pretty firmly attached. And then the two pots here that help control two of the effects is somewhat attached. Okay, this screw actually holds another piece that holds another screw. And it looks like that's going to be really fun to reach. Okay, so I'll see if any more force can get this loose. And it's turning. Of course, it would be turning. So it's going to have to be taken off from this other side. And then we can see that the crack is here, plainly visible. There's dust and dirt from age. The double-sided tape is nasty. And the double-sided tape actually may have contributed to the warping, either through its degradation or from its forcing the plastic to keep its shape against the body. So I don't know if the double, I think I have some double-sided tape kind of, you know, tucked away somewhere, but I will probably not put double-sided tape on here. I probably won't be putting any new, fresh, double-sided tape on there. Maybe I will. I mean, what it will do is cling the plate to the body, and then, you know, it will set it up for the same process again. Over years, it will dry out, it will let go of the pickguard, and then the pickguard can warp. So what I'm hoping is when the pickguard's flat and it's put back on, it'll stay relatively flat from that point on, and I won't have to deal with it. And I imagine that sticky tape, as you can see, there's some residue on the edge here. I don't know if you actually see it very well, but there's some residue here that's coming off just easily, just scratching with my thumb. That's where the double-sided sticky tape was clinging the edge here and kept it from going anywhere. So, so yeah, this part has to come off, and it's being held on with one screw right here. The other parts are the two pots, and of course it would be that it is, you know, nearly impossible to reach from there. So I might have to take this electronic PC board here off to reach this screw, unscrew that, and then take that off, then take this off to get the buttons out. And wouldn't it be that way? You know, wouldn't it be that way? It could not possibly be easy to where just taking this thing off just happens. So yeah. All right. Yeah, that's on there really, really tight. That's not coming off easily at all. And it'll probably just start spinning. Yeah, that can't come off. It'll just spin if I can get it loose. So I'll have to take this off probably to get to this one, and then take that off to get to this one. Ideally, what I would want would be to turn this and then of course it's turning. So so that actually might be the way to handle it, would be here to grab on. Oh man, my cheap little screwdriver decided to have the back of it come off. These are kind of fun, but you know, this was just laying around. Ideally I would use a better screwdriver. It's just what I had laying around. Oh, of course, yeah, that doesn't want to make things any easier. Yeah, that's not coming off. So I'll figure that out. And then once I get this out, I'm going to take the scratch guard down and cook it. Okay, so holding the part with a Leatherman, I got this loose. It's a very small screw, just a little tiny nub. Put that aside, and then we have the pick guard. The pick guard's free, and we've got the tape. This is kind of a foil sticky tape. The pick guard, which you can see is warped. Okay, so I'm going to take this down and clean it, and yeah, let's see if we can do this. Alright, so we've got the part here, and I'm about to clean it off. I've got my relatively flat surface cookie sheet. I've got a second cookie sheet here, and I'm going to put that over this one. So I'm going to oh, that's funny, it goes straight to 200. So yeah, my first setback here is my oven. Let's see if we can get it there. That's the knob I'm dealing with here, and it only goes to 200. So 175 to 200, and many years ago this oven had a fire inside of it, and it messed with some of the insulation, and this had the effect of making this oven heat kind of hot. So let's really hope this works. Okay, hopefully, fingers crossed, this will do what it's supposed to do. So I'm using this thin foil. I don't know if he used super thick foil or not. And the idea is I'm going to clean this, then I'm going to heat it up for 2 minutes on this, and then I've got a 20-pound weight upstairs. I'm going to put this flat over the top of it, and then put the 20-pound weight on it and let it cool. Okay. Okay, so I've just got this little scrunchie, and I'm going over, trying to be gentle. I definitely don't want to crack this thing any more than it's already been cracked. And I'm really just getting the nastiness off of it. It's coming off easily. Okay. And this is it's more warped than it appears when you just looking at it when you take it off. And it's also pretty dirty on the top, although some of it's like the screw dirt, stuff like that. Okay, but yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I've got my little drying towel here. And my main concern would be the shielding tape, but I don't know. It's this is experimental for me, as much as pretty much anybody. It's the first time I've ever done this, and yeah, I definitely want this to be nice and dry. Okay, so we've got my oven. In there. We're going to give it 2 minutes on the microwave timer. Now, of course, Philip McKnight said to check it, make sure everything's okay. So I'm watching it, and I don't know, this is really barely hot. So I don't know, it might need to be in there longer than 2 minutes, I guess. So I'm going to cook it until I can see that it is flattening out. Or until that it's, I guess it has to get hot. And then you put the stuff on it and that flattens it out. So we're almost ready. There we go. And yeah. Kind of hot. I don't know, I think I'm going to give it 1 more minute. Okay, now we've got about 15 seconds left, and I think it looks like it has softened up and heated up a little bit. And heck, I think I might have 1 or 2 other guitars that might actually benefit from this. Just a quick process. There we go. Let's take out our cookies, and it's flat. I mean, I can see just looking at it that it is flat. It's totally flat. So I'm going to put this on top of it, and I'm going to put this weight on here. There we go. And I'm just going to let it sit there for a little while. And just, you know, to give an idea of what, you know, 175 to 200 degrees does to a pan in 3 minutes, I can feel the heat transfer to this top pan, but it is not too hot to touch. I mean, I'm holding my hand on there. That's was in there for 3 minutes and at almost 200 degrees. So, you know, handling it isn't too difficult. I considered that 20 pounds might be too much weight, but honestly, that's all I have. And the second guy that I saw, what he did was heated it with a hair dryer, and then put a marble slate that was nice and flat down, and then put a piece of flat wood over it, and then clamped it down with 2 clamps. And I know that the weight on it from those clamps was probably at least 20 pounds, maybe more. And we're dealing with plastic, which is pretty strong. So once I can touch this and I'm satisfied it's cool enough, then I think I'll take it off and check. I don't know, I might take it off and check just gradually. I don't want to damage anything, of course. So yeah. And where they had, you know, really nice flat cookware, I have super old pans, and I used my flattest pan, but it's only flat when it's really pushed down, and then another that's my second flattest pan, which isn't really that flat. So hopefully we're not doing anything wrong here by using this. The first time I've done this completely experimental situation. Okay, so it sat there for a minute or so, and I've tested. It's not too hot now. It's still slightly warm, and I'm just going to check it. Okay, and I can see that the part that was warped is now significantly flatter. It's flat now, and I can see this crack here seems maybe slightly wider now that this process has been done. Let's see what see if this will. Okay, that came loose, and I'm gonna try to get it lined up here. It's flat. It's very flat. So yeah, but the crack sucks. What I'll probably do is run some glue in there, and I might go ahead and put a piece of tape behind it. And this probably is to be expected, since the warping of it actually caused the crack to happen. So probably not much that could really even be done about that. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, I've got my naughty super glue, which is coming out the side there. It's always so much safer that way. Double-sided sticky tape, should I choose to accept that mission there. And let's see, we've got some electrical tape, which is kind of easy to take off, I guess, in case there's a problem. And I'm just going to try this right out. I'm going to try to kind of fill this in a little bit. Hopefully this will work. I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to put the tape here and just try to get it as flat as I can to protect that crack there. Then I'm going to flip it over, and the extremely naughty, leaky super glue. Oh, yeah, it tried to bond with my finger there, and I've got a toothpick here. I think there's more, yeah, there's more coming out the side of it than coming out the front. So that's always very, very helpful when it does that. Just going to try to Don't you love how they basically make super glue nowadays, like, so it will get all over you. Like, hey, how can we make this tube of super glue so you're about 85% chance of getting it all over your hands? Oh, let's make the tube out of metal, so that it bends and breaks, and let's make the tip of it so that it actually glues itself shut. Yeah, that'll make it all work so much better. Yeah, we want it to be metal. Look at that. Yeah. And we want it to not be able to be used properly. So I'm just dumping this out of the side of this. Yeah, let's see if I can get a human hair glued onto there too. That's always really beautiful and classy to have that. Honestly, I hate these things so much. I didn't buy this. Someone else bought it. I've already got glue on my finger here, so that's going to be fun to deal with. And these suck. They're the very, very worst of all. I'm going to see if I can't find a better one real quick. Now, of course, it might have been better, to try and glue this with, I don't know, some other kind of glue. Maybe something that fills it or binds to it, or could have, like, I don't know, like a matching color. I got a little glue through the crack. I got glue all over myself, and hopefully I didn't get any on the pickguard, but I probably did. Yeah. So I'm going to get my finger in some acetone real quick to get the glue off my finger. Okay, so I'm trying this stuff I found in my attic. Super Weld Extreme. I went ahead and put some of it on here, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of guide it down into it with the edge of this. There we go. Hopefully that will fill in, hoping to fill in the little crack thing that it has created, while still keeping it flat enough to use. I'm just throwing this away immediately, so I'm not getting that glue anywhere near me. Okay, and of course my main worry with this whole situation is that the crack will continue here, and then finally cause the pickup to be like kind of free floating. So yeah, of course we don't want that to happen. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take for this to set. Of course it says that it bonds to skin immediately, and but I don't know how long it takes for it to actually dry. So it might not take too awful long. But the next step after it dries, of course, is putting this back on to the guitar. And let's see here, I can get that off there. Yep. Doesn't look like it's come through at all. And it may not have actually gotten down into the crack of the pickguard. Hopefully it did enough to adhese. But yeah, this is all just a messy situation whenever you're dealing with especially super glue, which is a plus 10 chaos multiplier to anything you're doing. But yeah, like my sister-in-law used to say that every time she handles super glue, she glues her fingers together, and I think I have the same kind of thing sometimes. Like it just seems that that it wants to end up that way. Okay, yeah, that is bonding. I'm sure that's bonding. It's not completely 100% dry up towards the pickup, and it's definitely not pretty. I mean, it's got a visible crack but the pick guard is flat now, and just really hoping that this works out okay. I don't know, I might go ahead and put tape on here just to protect this thing from now on. I think that might be a good idea, just to go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to put electrical tape. I'm not going to use anything that's hard to deal with, and I'm going to try to make it a halfway decent match to the length of this brake. Okay. And what that'll do, I've already got some, of course, I've got some on my fingers, but, and if you ever get super glue on your fingers, in case you don't know, use fingernail polish remover, also known as acetone, and that will soften it, and then you can either scratch or peel it off of your skin, with your skin, quite usually. And it helps get off there. I've also heard, and this is weird, that some guitarists actually put super glue on their fingers. Where did I hear that? Someone said that to me, like they put super glue on their fingers, which is something I've never done on purpose. It's always on accident. So there we go. That's taped while the glue settles. And there's a crack on there. There's pretty much nothing I can do about that. It's got some character. Okay, so part of the desire to do all of this came from a question I asked myself. What would I do if I could only take 1 or 2 guitars with me and I had to run out the door? And so I like to think about, that kind of a bug out bag scenario, and so I started looking at these small amps, and I decided to try a honeytone. I heard some videos, and some people said they didn't like it. Sometimes some people said they did like it, and so I went ahead and tried it, and I really loved the tone. I love the sound of it and everything, but it runs on a 9-volt battery, and it's a 2-watt speaker. Okay, so this little pedal that's next to it also can run on 6 AA batteries, and it has a drum machine, and you can customize each of the pedals and save them and stuff like that, and I have an adapter for it. So those two together can do a lot. I also have a looper pedal, and I think it can use batteries, but it also has an AC adapter, and this guitar has built-in effects, so it doesn't require anything to have the effects. Okay. And so, I don't know, I guess I kind of got bit by the Danelectro bug, which is decidedly not like me. Like, I'm the type of person where I'm strictly Stratocasters or LPs. That's pretty much it. I mean, I have a Telly, but I don't play it that much. I mean, I love Stratocasters and Super Strat stuff. So this was the closest thing to a Stratocaster that I could get that was by Danelectro. And when I first saw it, I was just like, oh man, I love that guitar. I love everything about it. And so I got it. This was 250 bucks. And I saw them all over the place, anywhere from 400 to 600, and I think the $600 ones were essentially brand new. So yeah, I got this Danelectro, and I'm going to try to fix it up today. That's what I'm doing. I'm pretty happy with it. It had a little more damage than what I could see in the pictures, and then of course I always look back at the pictures and check to see, and it was absolutely accurate. I looked really close, and I noticed that, of course, there was the little chips on the side. When I zoomed in, I realized they were there. Now, I probably wouldn't have seen them or realized that's what it was, though, from the picture itself. And then I looked in even closer, and I saw the little crack there. So this is stuff that, it was there. I can't complain and say that it wasn't in the picture. If I was going to complain, I'd say that the pictures, weren't zoomed in very much. But, some people aren't photographers. This isn't about that. It's a $250 guitar that might cost you between $400 and $600. And I already knew I was going to have to do some work because it was missing the battery cover. In the pictures, the battery cover was tape. It actually had tape on the back. So I'm actually pretty pleased with it. I'm very happy with it. So a couple things I need to do. I need to go ahead and put the pick guard back on. I need to go ahead and put all of these back in. I'm going to go ahead and clean stuff up though a little bit as I do that. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the edges of the pickups. Of course, the springs have to go. They have to go back on, so that so it's wedged up against the pick guard, and then the spring can help to raise or lower the pickup. And one thing I'd considered doing, I saw this in a video. Someone put lipstick pickups, which were part of the original Danelectro style. This all started, and I'm sure you can look up the history of Danelectro and learn all this too. But it started with a guy who was relatively young. Last name was Daniel. He got a job making amps for Sears Roebuck, I think is what it was. And those did well, and so they said, hey, we want to sell a guitar with these amps. And so he wanted to come up with the cheapest guitar he could that was still high enough quality to use, right? So so when he went to do the pickups, he didn't want to have to deal with how pickups were starting to become. He didn't want to deal with whatever was out there. So when he made the lipstick pickup, they said that a makeup factory was right down the street from his factory, and that he actually had them make tubes that were basically just almost the same, almost identical to the tubes that they were currently selling lipstick in. So when they say lipstick pickups, it's actually more accurate than just because of the appearance. They were like lipstick tubes. The way the pickups were made was a very simple design. There's no bobbin. As you can see on the inside of one of these, there's a bobbin. The bobbin has coiled wire around it, and then the pole pieces. This is like a Stratocaster. It's very much like those Leo Fender designed Stratocaster pickups. But the Danelectro I should call them, had the lipstick pickups, and those are just a magnet with wire wrapped around them. They put them in the lipstick tube, waxed them so they'd stay in there, and then that's it. And what they had an effect of doing, and this is really cool, this is a good reason if you want to try them to use them, is they're essentially a humbucker where when you choose one or the other, it goes single coil. So when you're using them with both on, then it actually is a higher output. And so it's really neat. So that's kind of the opposite of single coil. With single coil, if you have one single coil picked, then you have the maximum output. If you pick two single coils, then it will cut them both in half. But with the Danelectro pickups, the lipstick pickups in particular, if you pick one, it's actually the lower. And if you pick two, then they're hotter, and they're really low output. I think they're 2.5 or 3K output, and then when you combine them, it's like 6 or 7 or something. So they're really not high output, but they do sound really good. Now they don't have individual poles that line up with the strings, and so because they have the one wide magnet without poles, the way the sound is picked up is different. They have kind of a chimey, unique sound all to their own. They don't sound like other pickups. They have a desirable kind of sound that you can pretty much only get from them. Now they have humbucker lipstick pickups, and those are wired in tandem, and I'm not sure if they operate exactly the same, but they do have them. But the original layout was, if I remember correctly, it was 2 lipstick pickups, and they had kind of like a body design that resembled the LP. Kind of if you were to take like a telly body and then have an LP cut, and then they had so they were single cut guitars, and they weren't arch tops; they were flat. And cost cutting was a main theme with them. They were meant to be as high quality as they could get them, but still have them be cost cut design. And so to cut costs, he made the bodies out of plywood. He made the tops and bottoms out of particle board, and they're hollow. The original ones were hollow on the inside with a wooden piece. They were plywood guitars, and it really opened up the door for a lot of people to play. And so, the Danelectro designed guitars were played by a lot of stars, like Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix, even well, lots of them. You just look it up, you'll find out that a considerable number of artists who evolved into star musicians used the Danelectro by a different name, whatever their name was being sold by Sears or Roebuck at the time, but they were made by Danelectro. Now, if you ask how to pronounce Danelectro, if you ask the internet how to pronounce it, then the thing that pops up says Danelectro. It treats the first 4 letters like it's sounding out the word Dane. And so it will actually tell you to pronounce it Danelectro. If you look on forums, then some foreign consumers will say that they have catalogs of the old Danelectro instruments, and they have the Spanish notations on top of the N, which means it's pronounced with a Y sound. And so they're saying that it's pronounced Danelectro or Danelectro. So with a Y sound kind of mixed in there. So, and that actually makes a little more sense than what we say, because the guy's it wasn't his first name wasn't Dan, his last name was Daniel. And so Danelectro or Danelectro makes slightly more sense than Danelectro. And Danelectro, whether it sounds cool or not, is what the internet tells you it is pronounced as, but is likely not what it was pronounced as. And the name was actually on amps, and then he designed guitars which carried different names for Sears and Roebuck. And what ended up happening is in '69, the company was bought up, but they wanted to sell to small instrument stores instead of warehouse. And so Sears and the others dropped them, and then it went into obscurity. And then the modern take is from someone who purchased the name, probably at a premium, and then and is making the guitars. Now the guitars are made in the same way though. So if you buy a Danelectro today that's for sale, it's going to be very, very much like the original designs. They'll be made out of plywood, and have particle board involved, and some tape going on, and stuff like that. They are made in very much the same way. They'll have the lipstick pickups that are designed in nearly the same way. So you're going to have that the same kind of design, and therefore a similar or the same sound. And you're looking at anywhere between $300 and $500 or $600 for some of those. This is really crusty. This last one got pretty crusty. It makes me think that some kind of heat, weather, something got the middle here, because that's where the warping was on the pickguard, and that's where more of this grimy stuff is being more sticky. The other ones it just wiped right off. So yeah, and And of course, this isn't drastically important, but then again, it affects how easily you can adjust the pickups once the springs and the screws are put back on. So I want it to be smooth, doesn't have to be beautiful, but I do kind of want it to be smoother, and I can feel it. That's tactile kind of crustiness going on there. Now what I'm using at first is rubbing alcohol, and that's just going to kind of loosen up and separate, and it's because it separates oil. It will, any kind of oiliness that's bound to this. I don't want to damage the finish. I don't want to do anything harsh, so I'm not going to use any kind of like you know, any kind of cleanser that might start to gum up or damage or separate the finish. I love the finish. It's a burst, and then somebody threw some glitter on it, and then it has been sealed and buffed and polished, and not much. It's probably just a few layers of paint at the very most. Again, with cost cutting in mind, they wanted this to not cost them too much, so that it wouldn't cost the consumers very much, and then keep customers coming along. Now, the sound you get from Danelectros is kind of unique. Part of the reason I bought this was a YouTuber who tested this same guitar maybe 5 to 7 years ago or something, ran through every effect, and I just loved the echo effect and the distortion effect that were automatically built into this instrument. So I was impressed. So hopefully, that's kind of gummy. Hopefully when I get this guy back together and get the back panel put back on, we can get this running. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be okay. The battery that was in was dead, and it was really hard to get the battery out of it. It wasn't corroded, but the cap part on the negative side, I believe, of the battery was, yeah, on the negative side of the battery, if you look, the wider side here with kind of the knurled clasp shape that grabs on, this guy didn't want to let go, and that made it harder. But of course, because this design is 9 volt, and because we live in the future, 21 or so years past the creation of these instruments, a different type of battery could be considered. So I guess it's possible that I could put a different, possibly like a lithium ion or something type of power source in here, and then maybe even put like a recharge port, and then plug it into a USB port outlet or a computer or something, and then that could charge the internal battery and it could run off that. For now, I'm keeping it as close to untouched original. Also, I noticed when taking off stuff that the second knob here has a kind of stress crack going on, and I do have knobs, but I don't know if I want to replace this. It has cracked, and this is from like weathering and age. This is, I don't think this was cut, and it seems like kind of like a bending, warping kind of stretchiness caused it to crack, and it affects it, and it's not negative to me at all, really. So it's not going to hurt my feelings to have it. But I do have other knobs, but not this exact same. They have their own unique knob design. So I'm going to go ahead and get the pickups back on the board, get the knobs put back through, and just reassemble the plate, and hopefully it will line up better. Okay, so I've almost got all of the pickups on here, and I considered possibly putting a sticker here to cover that up just for decoration, even though I usually think that's kind of tacky, and I don't usually do stuff like that. In this particular case, it might warrant a nice decorative sticker, something to cover it up. I also considered spending the $50 to have a custom-made scratch plate, you know, just to kind of get that out of the way. So I'm not dealing with a cracked, broken one. But this is the original part. So I'm okay with that. Oh, that's always fun. You can just get a couple of turns of the screw into the side of the pickup. There we go. Then the rest of it's very, very easy. So this part's intimidating, but it's really not that terrible. You just get the screw started. I don't think that one's lined up properly. Yeah, it is, because I can see it coming through. Okay. You get it started, then you flip it over, and you can level out your pickups. Now, I'm not 100% sure if I did that right. I think I did. I'll know if I didn't, because it probably won't sound very good. But, alright, let's see. I'm just going to give them kind of a medium starting point there. Okay, now we've got the switch plate. Okay, who lines up and has, let's see, its own little screws. I think that's these two. Relatively small, annoying little screws. I think that's lined up. Yeah, that's lined up. I think these are the right ones for that. Let's try this one first. There we go. Just get a couple of turns. Those are being decidedly picky. Like they don't want to go in. Yeah, don't you love it when you have a magnetized screwdriver and the screw likes to just come right out and hug the side of the screwdriver, and it will never, ever get where it's supposed to go. That's always fun. There, that's an example of it. I'm trying to put the thing on there, and the magnetized screwdriver is saying, oh, no, I need to pull the screw out and hold it off to the side for you so that it will never fit. So, okay, I get over this real quick. And I don't, yeah, those are it. There's only two of them. And there's only two for this one, and all the other ones are a standard. So, it kind of has to be these ones. There we go. Yeah, that took a lot to get that to go in there, but now that it is going in, it is definitely the right one. And it looks like the crack has moved across that, you know, just to make all of that work worthwhile. So yeah, I think, I don't know, a nice Danelectro or kind of style sticker. I don't know, maybe putty or some kind of paint or something could go over that. Okay. Now the switch is on. And then each of these happy little pots get to go in here. And it all has a feel like, yes, I was on there, but no, I'm not going back on. And I don't know if that's good or bad. It could mean that the tolerances are good, but what it really is annoying. Yeah, that's the same. That's the pot it came off of. And this is definitely the nut that I took off here. And it definitely doesn't want to go back on. So, wait a minute, maybe, okay, I see. It could be that there are two smaller ones, yeah, that go to the effects one, the effects oriented. That's what it is, because that's going right on. So there are actually two sizes on here. There's one to go to the front here, these front volume tone knobs, and then there's one to go to the effects one. The effects ones. So there's this guy, and he's going to be the second wider one with washer. And I'll see if I can't do work under the view of the camera here, so I'm kind of scooching out of the way. Okay. There we go. Okay, we're almost done. Okay. So I've almost got this all back together. It actually looks like one of these had a washer on both sides, or a double washer, and I think I remember taking it off this last one. So I guess to be authentic, I will put it back where it was, even though none of the other ones have that. Okay. Alright, now that's all lined up, and of course these are thinner. And our little guy here to hold this on, that was not easy. He was not easy to get loose, and he's not going to be as tight as he was before, because I might have to get in there and do other stuff in case this doesn't want to be the way it's supposed to. There, just a little torque, and I think that's good enough. Those all seem to be pushing the way they're supposed to. They have a on and off setting. So check one last time. The battery connector needs to go back into its little cave, and then make sure all the wires are clear and sorted out. I think they are. That's odd. It's got kind of a pushing on its own wire. Yep, there's wires here and here. Yeah, it's definitely pushing on its own wires right there. Okay. Now that might be what caused it to warp. because it doesn't want to not do that. And the wires are up alongside of the pickup, but they are not down inside of the little groove for the wires provided by the cutaways, or the little pathways on the inside. Okay, so that is definitely flat though, but not here. Once I get here, there's a bulge right there, and I can feel it. It's from the wires not fitting down into their own little slots. So that's going to have to be fixed. Okay. There, that's down. These, I think this is where it is, right here. That's what it is. So that has to be right in the middle. It was a tight fit when this was first put together. They were like fitting wires around in little places and smushing things around to get them to fit. There we go. That's got her drop down in. Now I can plainly see this wants to kind of come up slightly, but it's nothing like it was. I mean, it's flat against there now. So we'll give it a test. I'm going to start with this end, and I can already see that is not lined up exactly the way that it was. Yep. So let's see here. There we go. That's where it's lined up. So I might have been right. It might have been a combination of the two things, the wires being all squee-wow, and the plate being scrunched with pressure from assembly. So we will see about that. Now I've kept the screws from the body separate because the screws on the back are considerably larger, and I guess sometimes they're not. You know, I've had guitars like my Kramer that was in my last video that had, you know, not even the same back plate, and different screws and everything. In fact, different drilled places for the screws that are not the original back plate. So, you know, kind of Frankenstein butcher stuff going on with it, to be honest. Stuff I would never do. It would be better to just use the same holes or use a different back plate. Go without a back plate until you can get the proper back plate, or at least a closer one before it. Just like they actually drilled a separate hole for the they drilled a separate hole for the strap button, and that really kind of messed up one of the horns of the guitar. So yeah, a lot of crazy going on. This guitar hasn't had anything done to it at all, and the guy said, "Oh, I found the battery cover for it, and I'll include it." And he said that he would take the tape off and he would include the battery cover, and this is the battery cover that he included. This is not the battery cover from the back of this guitar. The battery cover from the back of it is made out of the same white plastic that the back plate's made out of, and it's larger and it has 2 screw holes in it. This won't even fit over it. This is useless, but I'm going to make a new one that's going to be, but it's going to be perfect, and it's going to go right over, right where it's supposed to. Now I can already see that the scratch guard wants to take that similar kind of shape that it did before, but it's totally flatter. It's so much flatter. There's no play in the pickup now, so the problem is fixed. So at least for now it is, until it isn't, until this starts to fight with itself again. So with all these turned as far as they can go, they seem lined up. I'm going to tighten up each of these pots so they're good and tight, because you know it's annoying when they come loose, especially when you're doing stuff. And plastic tools are better for this. I'm using a Leatherman, but that's what I have sitting around. I'm about to break out my tools for the rest of this though, the rest of this project, because I'm going pro. I'm gonna use all my guitar tools and actually check the neck for rocking and check every fret. I'm going to buff the frets. I'm going to give it a setup. The guitar is going to get a nice setup. I might go ahead and fabricate the replacement battery cover and just get all this done. Get it done quick. So there we go. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put the little knobs back on. These knobs are great. They had words on them at one time. And that brings me to a point, okay? I actually have an Ibanez guitar that is from 1988, right when they stopped calling them Roadstar and start calling them RS series. One of my favorite instruments, and all the lettering and symbols and stuff are all still right where you can see them and read them. It's aged slightly, and you can tell there's some little chipped off paint here and there, and it's you can see some use in it. But this thing seems to have aged like it was meant to age. Like the lettering is all gone from the knobs. The lettering on the output jacks is worn away. So yeah, it kind of relicked itself a little bit. Okay. Okay, so I've put the knobs back on. The buttons seem to be okay. Pickguard's back on. It's cleaned up a little. There's no big bulge here now. This is taken care of, so it's not flexating or moving in any way. I went ahead and put this on. Now, I did this off camera, but if you have a bend in this and you want to straighten it out, you can just use 2 sets of pliers. You use one set to grab it, then the other set to bend it slightly. That way it doesn't pull too much one way or the other on it. And this still has a slight little angle to it, but it's straightened out a lot better. So that's ready to go. And so the next thing is I'm going to break out my tools and we're going to set up this instrument. Okay, I went ahead and found a nice little whammy bar for it, or wiggle stick, trem bar, whatever you want to call it. This has kind of a more oval shaped part here. I thought that kind of fit the style. And I've noticed it's really cranked up. Like someone has cranked up the springs on this. The springs will probably need loosened. I'm going to oil the springs because they're kind of corrosive. They look, well, I'll just put it up here real quick. If you can see kind of the nastiness on them, almost like I don't know what it is. And they, oh, actually I think they're covered. Yeah, you know, no, it's like a, they're not covered. It's kind of a I don't know what that is. Either way, I'm going to oil it. I'm going to oil it so it's clean. So that's the next thing I'm doing. And I'm about to break out the tools. I'm going to make a new battery cover plate for it. And that's just going to fit right here, nice and neat. And I'm going to clean. Well, first I'm going to check the frets for rocking. I'm going to, well, first I'm going to check the neck for bow and relief. And back bow. I'm going to check the frets for rocking after I check the neck. I'm gonna check it all out. Now I think this neck, if I read correctly, has your classic style truss rod, and guess what that means? You get to have the extraordinary fun of removing the neck just to adjust the truss rod. So let's hope that it is really flat to begin with, so that I don't have to go through that. But there's a chance I'll have to do that. I'll have to take the neck off just to adjust the truss rod. And I noticed the Chinese versions of this guitar have like a really fancy Danelectro stamped backed tuners, and they have like a cool vintage design to them. But these ones are just your standard, and I really like how they look. Someone said they were like, I don't know, Godos or Grovers or something like that, and I really don't know. So we'll see. We'll see what those are, and or how well they do, I guess. And I'm happy with this. I'm happy that this is flatter and there's little or no play now in the scratch guard here. So yeah, we're coming along. Okay, so an idea I have a, like most grown men my age, I'm 47 right now, I have a lot of Transformers toys. And one of them I got used was a Faith Leader figure. It's a third-party Optimus Prime, where they took the design of the Masterpiece Prime and shrunk it down, and it's all plastic. And I know I'm never going to sell it, at least not me. I guess maybe my kids, if they inherit it, will sell it or something. But this card came with it, and it's a hard plastic card. And I was thinking maybe using this, like just putting it on here, and because there was one screw already missing, just overlapping it here, and then it will be pinned down by the plate, and I can line it up as much as possible, and then it will only take one screw, and then that screw will hold it down, and then if I need to change the battery, I can just slide it up, change the battery, and then slide it back down, and it should lock down under the plate. And you know, it looks better than black tape. It's not the best looking idea for it. Now, another idea, and this would look a lot better, is to just find an old used credit card or debit card or something, or one of those fake ones they send you in the mail, thick plastic, maybe one or two of them stacked up. Now what they've done with this guitar is here there's like this is not a screw hole, this is like an open notch, and it makes me think that maybe on the original there was a piece here. Now in the pictures I've seen though, I think what I'm seeing is two screws. So it could be a longer screw that reaches something down in the bottom there. It could be a piece that's part of the plastic cover that goes down in here that lines the screw up. You know, it could be lots of those things. But like I said, I've got a missing screw that right out of the package, right out of the box, with this back plate. So with the back plate on there, there is a little room here. So if I want to put them on there like this, I could, but I would have to cut the card long ways, and that's fine too. It doesn't matter because I'm going to punch a hole in the card anyway to screw it down on there. So yeah, I could put that there, or I could find a credit card, or like I said, you know, they send those fake ones to you in the mail to try to get your business or whatever, and I could find one of those and cut it up. That will work fine because it's thick plastic. Some of them are actually double thick, thicker than this. But I don't mind having this on there. I think it'd be cool looking, just to kind of have Optimus Prime on the guitar somewhere. It's not gonna, and you know, it looks at least a little bit better than sticky black tape, which is what was on there. So yeah, it would look, and it looks bad of course, but who's gonna see that? Who's gonna see the back of the guitar? And if someone does see the back, they'll be like, wait a minute, what is that? And they'll look and it says Faith and PPO1 Faith, and then it's got Optimus Prime with like a big I don't know, like a purple cape on or something. So you know, I might go ahead and do that, but for the next couple minutes I'm going to look around and see if I can't find a white one, a card or something to use in place of this that maybe I can cut. If I cut one, of course, I can have it be the exact width. A card like this is the exact width, lengthwise, and it would just need to be cut to match up And so I could put that on there, line it up, and then have a rough estimate there of where I need to cut. And it's not much. It's very close. It's about, I don't know, a 1/4 inch or less that would need to be cut off the card. And then that would fit flush. So I could do that too. I could go ahead and cut the thing. And then it would be almost level, thick plastic. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try that idea with the Faith Leader guy. So the first thing I need to do to get ready for this is just put the back plate back on. And I went ahead and oiled those springs just to kind of treat them a tiny bit in case someone did something to make them get that nasty corrosion. My son suggested someone maybe cleaned it with water, and I think that is a distinct possibility. But also it could have been stored in a basement or an attic where it got moist and somehow water happened. That would explain the warping on the pickguard. That would explain a lot. Let's hope that it didn't affect the neck, because that would be the big issue if it affected the neck. So we got the screws on there, and then to just put this card on and line it up at a good spot. That's probably good right there. And what I'll do is I will find where that hole is. Yeah, it's right there. I'll just kind of line my finger up. So I know about right here I need to have a hole for a screw to come through, and then the screw is going to hold this down on there nice and tight. So I'll need to find a screw that fits here in this little hole, and then this is going to be my battery cover, and it's going to be very unique, one-of-a-kind battery cover here. Alright, I just realized what was going on here. There's actually a metal little piece here. I don't know if you'd call it a grommet or what. There's a metal piece, and there would have been one here to screw into. And that makes sense because you're going to be taking this off and on regularly, and so you wouldn't want this screw to be going in and out of wood over and over and over again. That would just you know, tear up the wood and ruin it. So this is actually a metal piece that's down in there. So yeah, and that's going to make it nice, very nice and easy to deal with. So, and I like this idea. I mean, it's a little weird, but so am I. So it's not hurting my feelings at all. And I'm going to put that about right there. I'm just going to make a little dent in the card. So now I've got a little dent here to work with, and I could use a drill bit or something like that, or if the screw that I'm going to end up using has a little point on it, I could use that. So yeah. And I found a battery. I think this battery's got a pretty good amount of charge left in it, so I don't know how good this connector is. It feels a little cheap and floppy, but it's on there nonetheless. There we go. So it's got a battery in there. Plates on there. Yeah, this neck's pretty good. There's a little bit here where there's been kind of a slight dent, but it's okay. Okay, I went ahead and punched a hole in this with a screwdriver. I just drilled it with a small screwdriver to put a hole in it there. So it's ready for a screw. And I'm going to just put it on here. I've already got my battery in there. And I have lined it up there. It's got a little scratch on it now. That's okay. But I've lined it up right where it's going to go. And like I said, though, there's a good chance these springs are going to need to be loosened up. So I'm probably going to be taking this back plate off again. Alright, so I've got the little card on there now. Of course, there's a little bulge here. where that is, but this isn't moving because this pins it down. What I might do is punch a hole here and then find another screw that fits and then just go ahead and close that down just so there's no movement. And that would just be, you know, for aesthetics. But that's on there and it's not moving. So there we go. Next up is actually testing out the different settings on the guitar. The neck, the frets, the tension on the back springs, just every little tiny setting that we can get done here. So time to break out the tools. Okay, so now let's check the neck relief. And I think this is a, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if this is a Fender or Gibson scale. So yeah, that's not matching, and I imagine this one's not going to either. Let's see, yeah, neither. This is a 25-inch scale. So if you have one of these rulers made for a Fender or a Gibson scale, get ready for it to not work. And that's interesting. So what that means is, will you get me that ruler?
Yep.
You have to use a straight edge. And so, and even though your frets are kind of in the way, that's just what you have to do. Okay, that's... And it seems pretty straight. I'm not seeing any wobbly spaces or anything. I think that's pretty good. So now we'll test out the frets, and I'll just go ahead and start on this end since it's closer to me. Let's see, that's good. So this will be the only guitar that I own that is this scale, and that looks like an ever so slight amount of play. In one spot. And it's way up on the end of the neck, and so far it's only one fret, and there might be a tiny bit of play right here. Let's see. Okay. Oh. No. Yeah, I noticed that sometimes it's me with my fret rocker. But no, okay, that seems like a little tiny bit of space. Now let's go ahead and flip around. 3 possible fret candidates here. And they're all super tiny wobbles, like barely any wobbles. And I can visibly see the crowns on the higher frets. So, you know, there hasn't been much play on this instrument. It looks like someone might have done cowboy chord kind of stuff, lower end chord stuff. And I'm seeing that the amount of wobble is indicative of the neck possibly straightening out, and then once the neck gets its relief, then any of those small amounts of wobble will then be equalized. So I'm not seeing any wobble that's so big that it needs immediate attention, but it looked like I had 3 frets that could have had some slight wobble. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, yeah, this part's fun. I'm going to go ahead and break out my masking tape, and this is to mask off the pickups so that they do not magnetize and catch the dust from what I'm about to do. Alright. And this is just to hide the magnets on the pickups, because what I'm about to do is going to get little steel wool bits everywhere that will love to cling to and never let go of the pickups. Okay. Is there a t-shirt back there you can hand me on the floor?
Yep.
Okay.
Here you go.
Thank you. Okay.
I have a feeling what we're about to do is going to be fun.
Well, I'm just gonna make a big mess. That's what I'm about to do. I'm gonna take some quad steel wool. That's 4 zeros, extremely fine steel wool. And I'm going to go over every fret on this neck. I'm going to polish it. Okay. So I've got my steel wool. Looks like I need to get a new bag.
Yeah.
It's all running out. And of course you get a couple uses out of it, but you know, and honestly in this particular case, this is a polish up. So I'm really just polishing up the frets. They're, I don't know, kind of old, nasty looking. And I'm shining them up. You can even see the difference between these two frets just from what I just did. And what yeah. See how shiny that is?
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and zoom in for people here just so they can see. Shiny, not shiny.
I think it would be cool to make a separate channel where the whole channel is just guitars.
Yep. And this will smooth up the action in case the frets have gotten kind of grimy and nasty over the years. It will smooth the edges of the frets, and it will make them look better. And it looks to me, like I've said a couple times now, that anything above the 4th fret really hasn't seen much action on this guitar, which is a good indicator that someone was first learning to play and they probably tried chords like your normal G, C, D, A chords, maybe some F chords and stuff like that, which are good chords to start with, but they never really got into anything above, you know, in the 2nd octave. I think this is a 21 fret neck. And what I'll do after this, if you can look here and see, there's magnetized bits, and you can see they're over each of the pole pieces on the single coil. So I'm going to get my shop vac here in a moment and plug it in, and then go over this whole thing with the shop vac and make sure to suck up everything really well. And this is also getting loose bits of grime and age and dust and stuff off of the fretboard itself. So this is just good. Now some people say they may not want to use steel wool because of how messy it is or whatever, but I stand by it. I use it. I've used it on, you know, probably 30 times on guitars now, at least.
I just realized something.
Yeah.
The magnets there are magnetizing the steel wool.
Yeah, that's what I just said on the video.
Oh.
Yep. Was that if you look at they're the pole pieces on the single coil pickups, you can see that it's the metal from the steel wool is gathering on them. Now some people will take another step here and use some type of a polish or something, and to get an even shinier result on their frets. But for me, this is very, very smooth. This steel wool is so fine that it really is extremely smooth, and it works out tiny little scratches, and where it gets them smoothed out. There are a few flat spots on these frets, and if I notice anything really needs to be dealt with, then I'll give the neck a fret job. But for now, we're getting it ready to be played. We're giving it a sat around for years and didn't get used, kind of a wake-up setup. We're bringing it back to life.
It's like it's hibernating.
Yeah, it was hibernating for, I don't know, however long. It could have been 20 years. I think this guitar came out in 2001, if the info I read was right. And so this guitar is 23 years old. It's kind of the only one of its kind when it comes to Danelectro instruments. They didn't have anything that really looked very Strat-like, and if it was Strat-like, some of them had the lipstick pickups. Some of them had more than 2 or 3 or whatever. This one has your single coils, and so this is essentially Danelectro's answer to the Stratocaster. It's not, and it's got built-in effects. When this was made, Danelectro was having a rise in popularity in their pedals, and so they said, we've got an idea. We're going to make a guitar that has the effects from our pedals built into the instrument. And so that was kind of the idea of it, and it worked well. I've heard people play this guitar online, and that's what made me kind of want it. I was very impressed with the sound of the effects and that they're built in. Now I'm also in contrast kind of against relying too much on a battery for everything. So, you know, people love active pickups and they think they're the best thing in the whole world, but to me, in my mind, active pickups are making me think of all of your sound, every bit of your sound and the quality of your sound constantly fluctuating because it's relying on the potency of a 9-volt battery. And so this, even though it uses a 9-volt battery, it doesn't have to. It has a second output jack that bypasses the effects and does not require battery power, and it doesn't use the little buttons for the effects on it. You can use that through your pedal or through your, you know, setup or your workstation, whatever you're using it for, or you can use the effects and get those results. And so that's kind of neat that they did that. They said, hey, we're just going to go ahead and put 2 output jacks on the instrument to enable that, and I can appreciate that. But I actually like the effects, and I'm hoping to get a good kind of a good first experience with those effects to kind of solidify the instrument with me. I want to like it. So yeah, I got this, and I want to fix it up and give it a good setup, and I really want to like and to use this instrument. There are some flat spots here I can see. Somebody used this for those lower chords there. And, you know, with this steel wool, I'm not wanting to, you know, I'm not re-crowning this thing, but I am smoothing out some of the flat spots. I want to smooth them out and get it ready to play. Chances are I'm going to have to do a fret job on this very soon. I'm going to want to recrown, but these are relatively small frets, and you really got to be careful. You don't want to use up too much of the fret to where your instrument doesn't have, you know, much life without a complete fret job. And I don't know, I think it's a well-balanced instrument from what I've heard. And so, you know, going from the frets it comes with to some really gigantic ones might not be such a great idea, or having to deal with a refret. I can see now that the work I've done has freshened the neck up considerably. All of the nastiness and dirt and stuff, you can plainly see the nastiness and dirt is also off of the neck. So I guess one more reason you might consider using still wool for this process is it's also going to clean and then prepare the neck for your treatment. So I've got some lemon oil stuff that goes on these necks, and that's going to be, after this is cleaned up, that's going to be the next process. So yeah, I think we're ready for that. Put this nasty steel wool back in its bag, and we're going to hook up the shop vac. Okay, so here we go. Shop vac going. Why I use a shirt so it doesn't get on my bed sheet. Sounds like I might need to empty my shop vac. Alright, so now I'm going to use some of this Dunlop for fretboards. Some people say don't use it, some people say do, but instead use this stuff that they've got that's a furniture polish. Some people say that you shouldn't do this. I've heard it all. I've heard that, you know, it's good, it's bad, it's right, it's wrong. I'm doing this. So I'm treating the neck with this furniture polish kind of lemon oil stuff that is sold for use on rosewood necks and necks that are, I guess, like rosewood. I don't think it's for maple necks. Maple is different, softer, and I don't know, it just doesn't have the kind of like little cracks and pores and stuff that rosewood has to drink up this oil and to invigorate it. It is probably safe to say that this fretboard has never been treated in the life of the instrument. And the reason I'm saying that is after I did the, as you could see in the video, it just really cleaned and opened up, but it was perfectly dry. Like it was almost like a begging for a drink, you know, the appearance was just, you know, feed me. Okay, no, I need the boomers. It's a red package that says, there you go, GHS boomers. Okay, Nick is my helper today. He's bringing me over brand new strings. We're putting on 1046s, GHS boomers. I don't know if this nut is cut for 10s, but I'm kind of hoping that it is. That would make my whole world that much easier. Alright, so after the fretboard has some time to soak this up, I'm going to give it a couple minutes to soak it up, then I'm going to wipe it down again, and then we're going to put strings on it and plug it into a noisemaker and make noise.
Oh, Rich!
Okay, I'm going ahead and wiping off the excess treatment oil. It has drank up some of that oil.
Oh, I can't find it.
Yep, we're looking for my tuning machine winder, because we're about to put strings on this instrument. Oh yeah, that fretboard looks way, way, way better. It just looks a zillion times better. Alright. Find the tool I'm looking for. Okay, we've got our GHS strings up. I found the winder.
For some reason, it wasn't in the toolbox.
Yeah, it was in my tool bag, which really doesn't make sense. Okay, so the strings I'm using are 10, 13, 17, 26, 36, 46. often referred to as tens, because when you talk about strings, you often refer to their gauge of the high E, at least in the case of 6-string electric guitars or acoustic guitars. So the high E string is a 10, and then this one is 46. So I'm starting with the 46 gauge, and I'm going to try to use the holes that are already in the bridge. Hopefully I'll be able to do this without having to take the back plate off, but sometimes you have to take the back plate off to do this. Okay.
I can't wait until this guitar's finished.
Me
so
too.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. And there we go. I'll go ahead and just give it a little bit of flex room, and then kind of wind one on here real quick like. Now, the saddles are kind of, I don't know, they're reminiscent of bent steel saddles, but they're not. They're not bent steel saddles. So,
Oh, wait a minute.
which I really, I like bent steel saddles. Those are the 50s style, before they started putting block saddles on guitars, and it probably was because they machine easily. A machine can just kind of press and pop them out by the millions, and they're probably slightly cheaper and easier to make. But then somebody said, hey, let's fabricate block style saddles, and of course some people probably think the block style saddles are better, and but I just like the bent metal saddles. It might just be aesthetics more than anything, but I do like them. I like them a lot, and I might put a bent metal saddle bridge on this instrument. Okay. So we'll see. And I've got a nice bent metal bridge with a fat block underneath it. It's often believed, I think it's been proven, that the fatter the block, the better the sustain. Someone out there could probably prove me wrong or say it doesn't matter or whatever. But I've also seen the thinner blocks that are on some of these cheaper bridges, probably like this one, break. They actually get weak around the metal and will break. And this one is an especially thin looking, what am I doing? This is an especially thin looking block. So
it doesn't break.
So I have one that's really big and thick, and it's a part I plan on harvesting from a different instrument I bought, and I think the best part of that instrument was the bridge. It had a good bridge, and I don't know, the rest of it was kind of iffy, so try to harvest what I can from it. Now we're going to see the bridge come up as these strings go on and kind of counter the tension of those strings, and it will add some height to the strings, and it will put some relief on the neck, because you're getting, you know, whatever, 100 or so pounds of tension pulling, and that's going to affect it. And hopefully that will be stable. It looks like someone has done a setup, because you usually don't see the little screw riser parts on the saddles so high up unless somebody has, you know, set up and intonated. So this guitar has been set up in the past, probably maybe one time or something like that. I don't know. That's one thing I do. I've learned that there's a surprising amount of guitarists that don't care about learning how to deal with their instrument. They don't want it, they'll always want someone else to deal with it, and they're not interested in learning how to deal with it. And you know, better for techs, I guess. A tech would probably want them to be like that because it gives them a job. But in my opinion, you should learn at least basic setup and a little bit of how to deal with your instrument. That's the one with the highest little pegs on it, and of course those are scratchy, kind of frowned on setup. You want to probably try to set it up so that and you can cut them too. You can cut the little riser screw parts of your bridge if you've decided that that's the height that you want and it's intonated and all that stuff. But quite often it's an indicator that other adjustments might need to be made. So if you have if you've lowered them so much, then you might need to adjust the neck. So sometimes it's an indicator of a neck adjustment that needs to be done. Also, there are newer styles of bridges that don't have the little rising screw parts to stick you in the hands. So that's always a good idea too. Maybe use a different bridge, like the Wilkinson that I put on the Kramer, which is doing great. The Kramer's very healthy. So, yeah. But in this case, we're going to want this instrument. Whoa, it kinked itself there. I hate it when it does that. Really hate that. Hate it when that happens. What happened there? How did that happen? It doesn't seem proper if it was done that, because that's underneath it. Yeah, that kind of got messed up there. There we go. I don't know. I think I somehow pulled that string out before I could get it turned around. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. And it's probably because I'm not used to this. Strat style with left and right side tuning machines. Kind of not normal. Not usually how they are. Usually they're all on one side or the other. If they're like fenders. But, you know, Strat style instruments or ones that have similar shapes like Paul Reed Smith and other ones might have their own little kind of left-right thing going on like this one. And that's fine, whatever. They did their thing. But what matters is that the distance from the nut to the tuning machine and the angle of it isn't inhibiting the sound. So as long as it's not choking up the string and affecting the sound, then it's probably okay. And so yeah, I've been thinking of getting some, I think I said this in a different video too. I said it in my last video. I saw somebody trying out 12s. And I thought, you know, well, I've never thought I'd ever want to use a 12 before because they're like power lines, you know, they're power cables. They are ridiculously thick, heavy, but I think maybe they'll suit me. Like I might actually like how they sound or how they play. What am I doing? So I'm thinking of trying them. Now I saw a video where somebody tried them out. Is that coming through? Oh, it went all the way up the back of the bridge and popped out the side. Yeah, it's doing it again. Great. So I found some 12s, and they're called Ernie Ball Not Even Slinkies. So they're called Not Even Slinkies, and they're 12s, and I think maybe like 56 or something on the Fat E. They are big strings, but I started thinking maybe the way I play might be heavy-handed, and so maybe some thicker strings will take up some of that force and then give me maybe some favorable results. So I might, now that's what happened before. It's because I'm used to holding down the string with my other hand when I tighten it up. I'm not used to tightening them up with, you know, holding down with my left hand and tightening with my right hand. So I have to be kind of doing a little exercise in being ambidextrous here to not used to it.
I'm ambidextrous.
Oh yeah? And you do the same stuff with either hand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got that tightened up. Now these strings, I don't know, they don't look right to me. They look too high on the Fat E side and maybe okay on the high E. So, there we go. Oh!
Did it just pop off?
No, it just it adjusted itself. So, everything's lined up. And so, it's time to tune up this instrument. Okay, I've tuned it up for a test run here, and it's a little buzzy. So yeah, the strings are a little out of whack. I can already see that the G is slightly too high. The action is high. Oh, hear that? A little scratchy. And it seems that could be related to, yeah, the height on the bridge. Right there. Okay, there's no hanging frets. But yeah, I can tell already the bridge needs adjusted. The screws are too high right here. Someone's raised them. It looks like somebody has tried to do their own setup, but kind of in a amateur way. Like, these screws are too high. They need to be up off the bridge, but they're too high off the bridge because the bridge is kind of floating up a little bit. So that's bad. The heights on the strings are all a little wacky. The action is too high, like I can see already. Now, if and it looks to me that someone has lowered the saddles as far as they can go. So that is telling me either neck relief or shim. So the neck might need a shim. Judging by the look of it, it might have one in there, but I doubt it. I don't think the neck has been shimmed. So yeah, we're going to try it out through an amp here in a second. Okay, so now we're trying it out. This is through my PA. But that's the strings haven't stretched out yet. It definitely needs more setup. I need to get the string height where I want it. I need to find a way to check the neck relief. I don't have a 25 scale notched ruler, so I'll have to trust just a normal flat ruler. The frets feel great. There's a lot of life left in the frets. That's good. The nut has been cut perfectly. So whoever cut this nut, it is, and I'm sure it came from the factory like this, the nut is perfect. So once the string height is adjusted to where it needs to be, and I can already tell I need to relieve the springs because the springs are extremely tight. Somebody set this up like they're never going to use the bridge. So, and I like that it's got this like tightening feel. I love how it feels. It's a good one. How it tightens up is good. Let's see. Yeah. Pretty tight, see? So yeah, lots of little tweaking here and there and everywhere needs to happen. But the effects, I can tell, are working the way they're supposed to. So if I hit, now I've already got effects. That's with the echo on. So if I go and do a bypass and try it out, then we should hear just the effects, and we'll go ahead, I'll try that out now. Okay, now I've got bypass, and it's way out of tune since I did the whammy bar thing, but here we can hear this. can see how these two bottom knobs affect the little push buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and tune it up again real quick. Alright, so let's try this out. There. That's a built-in effect, because this is bypass. This is the guitar through the PA. So let's hear this. Huh, let me see. Some little short kind of feel in one of the pots. So yeah, maybe some contact cleaner. Mix and match. You can do more than one at a time. So you can hear it's kind of trying. It's got kind of a, there we go. So yeah, definitely some setup work to be done. Okay. I've went ahead and reduced the tension on the springs. I went ahead and took the back off again, and I'm reducing the tension on the springs, bringing it to tune, and then I'm going to try, what this is going to do a couple things. It's going to raise the bridge. It's going to raise the bridge, and then it's going to lower the strings, because when you raise the bridge, then the front, the strings are going on is going to kind of pull forward and thus lower the strings slightly. If you can even get just a small amount, it might correct the action. The spring tension was, in my opinion, way too high on this guitar. So we need to test this out to try to get it Now it's down on D, so hopefully I can get more string tension to bring up this bridge slightly. Okay. So yeah, I'm bringing up, like I said, bringing up string tension, and it should raise the bridge as I do this. But yeah, it looks to me like I might need a shim. I might need to shim the neck, or possibly adjust the truss rod, depending on how much we can correct this, because the saddles are all, most of them are as low as they can go. Some of them have uncomfortably high adjustment screws. And with what I've done, it still hasn't allowed the bridge to come up. So what they've done is someone has essentially tightened down the springs to where this was really hard. Plus the screws holding the 6 screw in were really high up. And you don't want that. You want them enough to give breathing room for the bridge plate to flex. But you don't want them so high up that the bridge plate is actually putting pressure on the top of the screw. You want the screw to pin the bridge down enough to where the pressure is focused on the top of the guitar. So when you're pushing down on the trem bar, the bridge is pressing down against the head, the flat part of the body of the guitar. And then you don't want the full weight, you don't want to form like a fulcrum at the point of a screw, because the screw is weak. I mean, it's comparatively weak. Plus, your bridge can shift up and down, and that's you know, just really bad. It won't stay in tune, and it's all around bad. So I went ahead and adjusted that, and I'm looking, and I can still see there's more room for adjustment. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen up, and hopefully I don't run out of room, because sometimes these screws don't have very much room, and as you loosen them up, you get kind of dangerously close to the screw coming out, which obviously I don't want that. Now these screws were put at a downward angle into the body, so as I loosen them, because they were put in there at a downward angle, it brings the spring claw closer to the back plate, and the closer the spring claw gets to the back plate, the more it can cause problems. The back plate will hit the spring claw. Oh, here we go. Now the bridge has come up off of the body of the instrument, and that's what I want. So it's somewhat floating. Now, you know, obviously this isn't Floyd Rose or something, but what this does, okay, yeah, it's coming up now, it's leveling out, and the strings are getting closer to the fretboard up at the pocket. So this, still isn't gonna, you know, fix the problem I have here. The only way to fix this problem is probably going to be to shim the neck, or possibly, if I can get a good reading on the relief on the neck, adjust the truss rod. So ideally what I want is to be able to bring the strings down and not have to have too much. Oh, this tuning machine is really tight all of a sudden. It could be that whatever little bushing may have been in there is gone, or someone has possibly tightened the high E key too tight down on the bushing, so it might need to be loosened. And once I get close to the spring tension that I need, then we're not going to get as much of the bridge coming up. So with the bridge is close to being where it needs to be. They seem like pretty good tuning machines. They're not bad, but the high E tuning machine is too tight. And like I said, that could be a couple of things causing that. A little better sound. See, it's not vibrating as much. Now there's the vibration. That could be from the springs. It sounds like it might be coming from the back of the instrument. That effect. That was one of the reasons I bought this, was this crazy wobbly echo effect. So yeah, that helped with the action slightly, but everything is saying bring the saddles down, and because the saddles are as down as far as they can go, then that then translates to raise the neck at the pocket, and so that would require a shim. When you put a shim on, then you're going to add just a slight bit of raised area here, and then that's going to affect the entire neck from the pocket down, and then all of the strings will be closer. If they're kind of flat against the neck, then you raise the saddles, and then the strings can be evenly distributed over the frets all the way down the neck. And so that's why shimming is a nice little magic trick that can fix a lot of the problems you might have with the guitar. This neck might need to be shimmed. It is looking like it kind of does. It looks like the bridge itself is nearly perfect. So as I've set it up here, if you can look here, see how it's up just a tiny bit here. That's good. That's where I wanted it. It's not pulling too much up, and it is staying in tune to a degree. So we've started our quest to fine-tune the instrument has begun. So now what I want to do is get in here, and if I can't get this camera moved, it's nice and tight, so it doesn't want to. There we go. Okay, so now what I want to do is this is better now. These were too high. This one here looks like it might still be a little too high. These are level. This is raised slightly. The springs have been relaxed, so the bar will be easier to use on this. It's close, but I'm thinking shimming the neck's going to be the only way to fix this, and what that means is I get to take the neck off this body. Probably will be the only time the neck has ever been taken off the body of the guitar. And once the neck is taken off, I will add a shim. And then the neck will tilt back ever so slightly. Now, before I even try to consider doing any of that stuff, I'm going to try to get a nice flat edge to test the neck again under tension and see what kind of relief. You know, I can just test it with a string, of course. I can just kind of grab here, and I can see that it's perfect. It's because it was flat, and there's only the very slightest bit of the string coming up, and that's right where you want it. So and there, I guess, there might be the faintest hint of a back bow, but I don't think so, because the string is just barely over the fret. There's just a little bit of room, and that's pretty good. That's good. So yeah, either way, if there's a back bow, then the neck comes off, the truss rod gets adjusted. These types of guitars are just the most not fun ever to try to deal with when it comes to the truss rod, because you have to take the neck off, adjust the truss, put the neck back on, test the string height and relief. If it's not right, then guess what? You get to take the neck back off. And so how did Fender solve that problem? Whatever, 20, 30 years before this guitar was made, is they put a cutout right here, and so you could just drop a whatever, like an L angled screwdriver in there, and or probably later a hex wrench, but I think it was a Phillips head screwdriver that was bent, and you dropped it in there, and then you could adjust the truss rod freely, and it was just right here out in the open. Of course, later on someone said, hey, why don't we just do this at the headstock? And then somebody said, because you'll have this sensitive area of the guitar just open. He said, well, let's put a plate over that part. Okay, so you saw the evolution of design, and so this is going back in time 30 years or more to the pre-slot pocket side truss adjustment, which is the most difficult type of truss adjustment to do probably on any instrument, really. I mean, because even acoustic guitars, you can get in and adjust the truss rod through the F-hole. So you're not, this is going to be tough. Now, because of how straight the neck seems to me right now, it's just telling me, shim me, and your whole world will be fixed. And I'm probably just going to go ahead and do that, because the height that I'm getting off the strings right here is, in my opinion, unacceptable. To fix this, I can see here at the bridge, this is flat against the plate. And with this flat against the plate, the action, or the neck being as straight as it is telling me that the angle of the neck is actually slightly up. Okay, so a shim will correct that. By shimming it, there'll be just a tiny bit of a buffer here in the pocket, and then the neck will be in a nice straight line. The strings may be laying flat against the neck in an unusable fashion at first, and then you would adjust each of the saddles to bring the strings to a good usable height. And that's going to be what has to be done here. And once that's done, then the bridge will be good. Right now it's looking good. Everything's looking good. I'm really glad that this worked, because this pickguard's fine now. If I put a little sticker right here or something, you won't even know it's cracked, and I won't know it's cracked. So far I'm very happy with it. I knew I was going to have to do work on it, so I was prepared for that. And right now, phew, it's looking great. I'm very pleased with how it's going. So I'm going to put a shim on the neck pretty soon. Okay. So to fit the theme here, I've got a Danelectro Honeytone. It's a 2-watt portable amp. I talked about it earlier. It runs on a 9-volt battery. It has distortion, and it's got it's got gain and I don't know, some other stuff here. Level, volume, I don't know what they are. I can't read them from here. Now when I got it, the box, it said on the box that it was dotted gold, and so I thought it was actually going to be gold like the outside, but what it is the accents, the name and the little ring here and stuff is gold. Now the older ones of these, like the original ones they released, actually said Danelectro on the middle part here, on this plastic, but they took that off there. But the battery that comes in it says Danelectro on the 9-volt battery. So I guess that's kind of cute. Now it's like the guitar's effects are 9-volt battery. It's a 9-volt battery operated, and then like I said earlier, this pedal here, it's just a cheap RP 100R, I guess. It's a Digitech, but it has drum machine, programmable and stuff. You can program all the different stuff. It's on bypass right now though, so I'm just using the honeytone. But I have 2 of the effects on the guitar right now, so you can hear the effects. Let's listen. Just kind of 2 of the effects on, and that's it. And there's also distortion and things like that. There's kind of hear that barking out of there. Now the honeytone here also, of course, has, so you can hear that. And phew, it's pretty loud. But of course, with it all down and the volume up, then I can turn this on. So yeah, I've got tons of effects. This can do a ton of stuff. The guitar itself is great. Like I said, it's a teeny tiny bit high strung, but as it's been sitting, I've noticed it's really not that awful. I do want the saddles higher, and so what I might do is shim the neck. Right now I'm just playing it without the neck shimmed, and I'm just gonna, you know, kind of talk myself into it. I did a lot of work on the guitar today. I really like it. I think it's a great instrument. It's like I said, about as close as to a Strat you can get with a Danelectro. The Danelectros are usually, you know, cheaper, hollow-bodied with lipstick pickups, or they're even baritone guitars or basses and stuff like that. So they have you know, a variety, but it's encapsulated, and they have their own style and their own kind of projection. A lot like Gretsch. They have a dated look and feel that seems to really be old and almost a departure from what's commonly accepted, but the quality is still there. Like I've heard that even though Danelectros are the cheaper component instruments, they're built really well, and so and they sound really good. Now this was made in Korea, and it's, you know, not new. It's 20 some years old now, and it's playing great. I really love how it plays. The neck really needed that drink with the oil. It looks so good now. There's no hanging frets at all. The frets are nice and polished now. I'm really happy with how it's playing. I went ahead and put my my flat jack on here so that, because it's the bottom style jack, I don't want to smush it. Here you can see the two output jacks, and just kind of get a look at the instrument the way it's looking now, and you can see, if you know what you're looking at, how high up the little posts are on the bridge on the saddles, but it's doing great. That's kind of what inspired me to get this instrument. I heard a lot of the sounds from it online and thought that's going to be perfect for the thing I'm getting ready to try to do. It really has the feel of what I'm wanting to project in the next song, and I have a feeling this guitar is really going to end up being one of my favorite instruments amongst all of them. Looks like my camera decided to get kind of floppy on me there. But yeah, it's looking good and playing really good. I'm going to compare it to my Kramer through the honeytone, and then I'll be done with the video. Now here we can see the last guitar I worked on, and this will kind of give an idea of you know, the angle they took with this guitar. They wanted it to have their look, but also kind of fit into that that Strat niche. The same was done with both of these. The obviously the Pacer style body was meant to be kind of an upgrade on the Strat. It has the longer top horn and the shorter bottom one like a Stratocaster, and that is not how the Danelectric is. It actually has a longer bottom horn than the top, so that's kind of different. Also, the pocket is really close on this. You have no problem at all reaching it, even though it's a 21 fret 25-inch scale neck, so it's a different scale neck. This one is a Fender scale neck. Okay, so this isn't Fender or Gibson with the scale. So as far as, you know, the length of the frets and reaching the notes and stuff, you know, it's different. It feels different. Maybe it's a little quicker, but you know, it is different. Now I noticed that the intonation was spot on, and so with whatever modification someone did to the saddles to get the strings where they wanted them, as height wise, the nut was perfect, the tuners are great, and the intonation must have likely been set, and it's really close. Like there's only some mild adjustments here on the saddles, so this was intonated likely out of the box, ready to go. I've got the action on the Kramer a little slightly lower, but they're not so much different. The action on the Danelectro is so good, but right as it reaches the pocket, it's just slightly higher. And it makes me want to kind of leave it the way it is just because I like how it is. But I've noticed that a couple of the strings are slightly higher than what I'd be comfortable with. Like the B is you know, tactile higher than the others. So as I feel the strings, the B needs to go down. I already know that. The E is close, but it might need to go down too, and the G. So the bottom three strings might need saddle adjustments, and because they're going to be getting way too close already, it again might be a situation where a shim is needed. They both have the flat bottom part for the jack, and I think that's, you know, it's okay, but it does kind of make it harder to deal with when you're sitting down, because I love to sit down and play. Most of the time I'm sitting down and playing. So if I sit down, I have to have a flat jack. This is what I mean when I say that. So that the end of the cord isn't jamming down into the bed or something like that, because if it is, it will bend and wear out and stuff. So like with Ibanez, a lot of the time, with a lot of Dean guitars, with a lot of most of the Kramers I've seen, except maybe a couple of them, they have the output jack down here on the bottom. There, some of the newer, more creative ones, like the Mitchell shredder that I have, it has a jack that's like on the side and kind of up. So whatever you plug into it, it's away from your legs or from you can easily sit down and play it. But these ones, I guess, kind of, you know, want to be played standing up, even though I really love to play. I choose to play sitting down probably 95% of the time now. When I was young, when I was a teenager, I played standing up, and eventually I just really like to get down and kind of get closed in and kind of feel, and I think I just feel my music better if I'm sitting down. I'm not, you know, dancing and jumping and prancing and spinning and doing tricks and stuff. I'm focused on the neck work and you know, picking and stuff and trying to get things just right. So maybe one day I'll change my mind and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and start standing up all the time and doing all this, but probably not. Now the finish, this one's finish seems fragile. I've noticed a crack in the finish here, some chips, and wherever there's a chip, it seems thin, like the finish is very thin. I know the finish on this Kramer is like bordering on some kind of like enamel shielding, like it's super strong, and so I'd have to give them the props on that. But the tuning is probably going to be more stable on the Danelectro because it doesn't have the angle bar. I've noticed this one actually has a slightly angled headstock. And even though I would prefer the tuning machines to be on one side or the other, I think I like the tuning machines on the Danelectro better. They seem to be really good. Now, maybe compared to the Striker series Kramer that I have, you know, there would be some advantages, even though it does have a Floyd Rose, which, you know, those can be tough to deal with. Break a string on a Floyd Rose and get ready to deal with tuning that. You might as well have, you know, if you're going to play a Floyd Rose live, then you might want 2 or 3 guitars like it already perfected and tuned up and ready to grab, just in case anything happens, like a string breaks or something, because, you know, you're not going to just keep going. You're not going to throw a string on there and tune it up real quick. Those are all just too hard to do effectively with a Floyd Rose, and it drops out of tune. And with these, you know, floated styles that I do with the with these types of bridges, it's the same thing, but getting a string on it and tuning it up is much easier. You don't have to unlock a locking nut. You don't have to use a wrench to pull back the little locking parts on the saddles. You don't have to deal with tuning it and having it throw itself out of tune as the string is, you know, reaching its tension because of the thing floating. So So yeah, it's a lot easier. Now, I haven't done the maximum amount of work that I would do on the Danelectro. On that I would, like I said, lower the strings. I would probably shim the neck, and then that would be final. The frets are good, just being polished. So yeah, I think it was a good 250 bucks. I think it was definitely fun, and I gained some experience from it, getting to correct the bulge and crack kind of area on the pickguard. Now, of course, on this particular pickguard, this isn't some pickguard you just like, oh well, I'll just get another one. It's at least $50 some, and that's going to be a fabricated aftermarket pickguard. You don't see pickguards like this that are from the actual instruments in the wild usually. And on top of that, the pickguard is essential to the function of the instrument. Whereas, you know, and I don't just mean tone and volume and stuff. This actually has the 4 buttons on the pickguard and the knobs controlling them. And under the pickguard are the little PC boards I showed earlier that are controlling all the effects. So the pickguard has to be this kind, and it has to be, you know, in good enough shape to use. So now it's fixed. There's no problem with the bulge kind of cracked part on it. It's fixed. It's glued. It's strong. The problem with you know, it dipping in, there's no problem with it doing that now. So that's good. And that same thing happens with Stratocasters, and anything that has a pickguard can warp and twist and bulge and do all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So it's not really you know, it's not exclusive to this or that guitar. It's something to just, you got a piece of plastic on there, and it is under tension because of conflicting screws and things like that, and weather and expansion of the body, and just temperature. Everything that can go into it is affecting it. And in this particular case, I think when they screwed the pickguard on, one of the screws was a little too close, and so it added that tension. And of course, it also could be the double-sided tape used to firm up the pickguard going bad, and that might have been kind of essential in keeping this part flat so that the tension of the screws doesn't overcome it. So this part here being flat against it and the screws holding it down, over time when that tape went bad, there was nothing forcing it up against the body, and so the tension of the screws took over and started gradually allowing it to warp. And that might have also been part of several other conditions, heat, humidity, and you know, just all kinds of stuff. It could be, I think of maybe this guitar in a attic or in a basement, and then, you know, moisture, rain, heat, and all, and the tape going bad. And on the other end of this was double-sided sticky tape, which you usually don't see double-sided sticky tape on the bottom of a fret or of a pickguard. So, you know, it's just not something that really that you want to have to deal with. Now, I've shimmed a dozen necks or more, and they always turn out great whenever I know I need to shim a neck. And what a shim would do here is raise the saddles all high up. And because these saddle screws here are the shorter kind, I would probably have to replace those and put longer ones on there to raise the saddles up. Because these are the long ones, they're going to actually be, and they'll still be sticking out. Because, and I could feel now that I'm looking at it, this is a loose one, and that can cause buzzing and stuff. Because I shouldn't be able to just shake the thing like it's nothing. And I have several, you know, little bits of these that can easily just come in here and take over. And so I can take any of these out that I need to and just replace them with other ones. I also have other saddles I could replace. I have a bridge I could replace this with. For now, I want it to be original, and I really don't think I need to shim it. If I can get the G, B, and high E strings slightly lower, then I think it would be okay. I think it'd be slightly high strung as it reaches the pocket, but down the neck and the majority of the areas I play, it's nice and a good height off the fretboard. So yeah, these old guitars that are kind of forgotten, or maybe not as popular as a lot of the other ones. Like whenever, if you say Danelectro, I would say the majority of people are never thinking of a Danoblaster, which is what this is actually called. This is a Danoblaster. It's a Danelectro Danoblaster Innuendo, which means it has 4 built-in effects and the 4 knobs on it. There's another one that has just distortion built in and a couple other different color options, but is for the most part essentially the same instrument. I don't think Danelectro, I might be wrong, but I don't think they've ever used a maple fretboard on anything. So they've always used rosewood or something like that. And some of the best stuff has actually been played on those cheap plywood semi-hollow body, and they're not semi-hollow body like an F-hole or something visible, or like, kind of super thin shell around a big empty internal. They are hollow body, but they appear to be solid because they have a particle board top and then a plywood interior, and the construction leaves kind of a tunnel on the inside. Now this guitar is not like that at all. This is a heavy instrument. I would say it's probably 10 pounds or something, maybe even more. It's one of my heavier instruments, and I like that. It's never bothered me. I'm not hanging it from my neck, like somebody hanging a 11-pound Les Paul from their neck and then, hurting themselves. I sit down and play, and so maybe it kind of helps to have it have some weight. It can be on my knee, and then as I'm strumming and stuff, it's well seated. And but I'm really trying not to be too picky. I play guitars that are very light, cheap, with chunky necks. I've got some guitars that are higher end, like the Angel of Death 2 or the Dean Zone 2 Custom. That's a good guitar. So some of my guitars, even though someone out there might say that I have a whole lot of nothing, I'm not a fool. I know that what they're talking about is I don't have a Fender or a Gibson, and what I do have didn't cost to upwards of $4,000 or $5,000 or more. But I also know that a lot of the guitars I have are actually really, really good players, and that when you're someone dedicated, like I am, to getting the best out of that instrument, I'm not going to go, oh, this takes work, I don't want it. I'm not going to go, oh, there's something, kind of funny here, I'm rejecting this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say, oh, wow, like in the case with this pickguard, wow, now I get to try to learn and figure out how to fix this pickguard. And so I did, and now I know. And in the future, if I see a pickguard that is warped or that has conditions that are a lot like this, I'll know immediately how to fix it. And that can help someone out. Like someone can go, oh, I got this or that guitar, but look at my pickguard, and I can go, hey, give me 20 minutes, and your pickguard will be like new, spick and span, perfectly flat, and we'll put it right back on your instrument. So, and I wanted this guitar. When I've said this in my first In Bed with Guitars video, that with me, it's always going to be aesthetics first. And then after that, it's going to be functionality. These guitars are all meant to do the same thing. So I'm not going to question functionality. If it's not going to function, of course I don't want it. But the more I have to try to do, the more I'm going to learn from it. And then when I'm done doing that, the more I'm going to know the instrument, be familiar with it, and then I'm going to be happy with it. So it's like if someone gives you a mansion, and then you're just running around the mansion and it's pre-built and everything you ever wanted is in it, you don't care about any of that. But if somebody gives you a bundle of sticks and some wood and some bricks and some mortar and stuff, and then you spend some time building that place, it doesn't have to be a mansion, but it's for you, and you're going to know it, and it's going to be part of you, and you're going to love it. It's that same kind of mindset where because I didn't open a box and have it jump out perfect and shiny and flawless, I had to make it the way it needed to be, and then I'm attached to it. And so I really don't like that attitude where people say you have nothing, or they tell you what you have is junk, or they tell you what you have is worthless, or even like this guy said, sell everything I have and just buy one Gibson. And you know, I replied to him, if I had spent my money on one guitar, then I wouldn't have learned how to work on guitars. And so I learned how to work on instruments because I bought a lot of middle cost and lower cost instruments. I have never spent $1,000 on a guitar. I don't ever want to. I have owned a guitar that was likely $1,000 when it was new. And the values of my instruments have went up. Like I got a Oscar Schmidt by Washburn Les Paul style with the dragon inlay on it. It's really beautiful, gold top electric guitar. I think I paid like $250 or something like that for that instrument, and I've seen it, if you can find it in the wild, it's always over $500, even up to $600 for that instrument. I bought the Dean Custom Zone 2, the purple one. When I got it, it was probably $250 to $300, and now I've seen it anywhere between $600 to upwards of $900 with a case out in the wild. A lot of the guitars I can't find anymore anywhere. Like I have a Rev. I haven't, even though it's a cheap guitar, I haven't seen them anywhere. I have a green Mitchell that's a shredder. I haven't seen that anywhere, and I love the guitar. Once I put the work into it to getting it just right, and it didn't need much work, it has been a stellar instrument. I bought Glaries and upgraded them as much as I could, and within reason. I'm not spending $600 to $800 upgrading an instrument. I'm putting elbow grease work into it. I'm getting the frets to where they're perfect or as good as they can be. I might put better pickups on the instrument. I might replace the knobs and replace the tuning machines. I might put a different bridge on it, or even just different saddles. Like I know roller saddles will solve a lot of problems with those cheaper guitars. So maybe you don't have to replace the bridge. You can just put better saddles on the bridge that it has. So for me, you're talking to the wind. You're talking to a wall. You're talking to nothing if you're telling me that what I have is worthless or what I have is nothing. You're speaking to yourself essentially, because that could not possibly be the truth. The knowledge I've gained from purchasing the instruments that I've purchased and learning how to work on them is invaluable, So, but of course, if you are saying, oh, there's this market and then people are buying and selling things and the things you bought are essentially worthless. Well, I never bought any of these things to sell. I never bought, the closest thing to a guitar I've ever purchased for a possible sense of kind of like value, longevity, and maybe increasing in value would be the Dean Angel of Death 2. But in all honesty, the real true reason I bought that guitar was the artwork on the guitar. Because it's a Zero and it has a beautiful angel artwork on it, and like an album cover or something. And I love Megadeth. I love their artwork. I love their music. And so it's a Dave Mustaine signature edition instrument. I love everything about it. It's not my style of instrument, and I knew that when I bought it. So, and it has gone up in value, and it has become exceedingly rare. Like I don't see them anymore. I'll see the original Angel of Death, but not the Angel of Death 2. And I've seen them for anywhere between $700 and $900 if you can find them out there. And I wouldn't ask something like that for mine. And I probably, if I was going to sell it, it's got to be at the right time to the right person for the right reasons. Point being, the guitar was not purchased so it would gain value so I could sell it. And the resale value of an instrument has never come into my mind when I'm purchasing a guitar. I'm a guitar player. I love to make songs and make music, and I know I can do that and come up with it. So I think the Danelectro is that kind of like it's a watchtower kind of instrument because it's looking out for you when you're out there in the rough seas for you to get where you need to go, even though it's not the most expensive, it's not the most, perfect, it's not the one everybody seeks out. And if you need to know that that's what it truly is, you can look at all of those artists that people basically worship that use them. Even like I said, Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton, and just a whole mess of guitarists. And yeah, when you eventually saw them on stage in their true remembered kind of assemblage, their final form, they might have had a Gibson or a whatever. But the truth is, a lot of them started on or even kept using and played Danelectros. And and the Danelectros are not expensive, super hard to deal with or hard to make. They're not from like choice select, rainforest woods, and they don't have, 13, dwarves that are masters of luthier craft working on them in a dungeon somewhere. They are throw together low cost instruments where the main core component is high enough quality to stand on its own. And I have to say, that's how this guitar is. It totally is, everything that I thought it would be and more. I'm really happy with it. I'm actually surprised at how stable the instrument is, because the neck pocket is it's like an illusory kind of look. When I think of, bolt-on neck pockets, I always think it needs to really protrude and have a big chunk, and it does. It actually comes out to about here, but the way it's designed, the little raised up parts on each side, you can more easily than on Strats reach the higher frets without any kind of restriction, and it seems very, very stable. Like it's it's extremely stable. Closest thing to a stretch taffy instrument I could possibly get, but I do plan on getting the like the 56 or 57 style Danelectros that are the more modern ones that have come out recently. Just at first glance, they resemble the shape of an LP, but they are actually flat, more like the bottom of something like a Telecaster, and then a single cut, and the single cut is the same shape as their double cut, and then the top curvature is reminiscent of both a Tele or a LP, but there's no arch top going on there. There's not a lot of, it's not sophisticated. And I definitely want to try something with lipstick pickups. I've heard them, and I think that they seem really great. And I think there's going to be a resurgence. In fact, I just noticed on YouTube here while I'm filming this, and after I just purchased this guitar, that there are two, often sponsored musicians pushing the Gretches, and the Gretsch guitars really need to sell. People need to go out and buy a Gretsch, buy a Danelectro, and support these guys. And can you look at that? Look at that headstock. How can you say no to that? That is so awesome. It looks like Gumby's head, kind of, or like a Coke bottle kind of shape. They call the originals with the level top and that curved shaped Coke bottles, and so I love it. It's heavy too. I'm just feeling it now. The instrument is, oh yeah, it's at least a couple, 2 or 3 pounds heavier at least than this Kramer. It's a nice, heavy, high-quality instrument. Okay, I've yammered on enough. I've talked enough about it. Thanks for anyone who's watching my videos, and I'm probably going to, if I do a shim on this, I'll go ahead and put that in a video. And when I do other work, I didn't film fixing this jack here, but what the problem was is the grounding piece, the metal grounding piece that's alongside the jack as it goes in there, just needed kind of bent back to what its original position was. When I went in and bent it out of the way, it doesn't short out unless you really force it to. So that one little problem that it was having, that's totally fixed. And I need some contact cleaner because this One of the knobs on this Danelectro just needs contact cleaning. I might just replace the pot, but I don't really want to because I want this to stay, you know, as original as possible. So, rock on. Thanks for watching.